Hello, everybody. This is our first episode of Getting to Know Grand Rapids, and today we are going to be sitting down and talking to David Lebin, the General Manager and Director of Operations of the intersection. I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of years ago when I actually started my first job out here in Grand Rapids. I was a security guard at the intersection myself. So we are just going to sit down today and talk about the local music scene. We are both transplants from the city or to the city of Grand Rapids. We both love the same kind of music. We both love this city, and that's kind of why we moved here. So we'll just get right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at the intersection?
Obviously, my name is David Lebin. I am the Director of Operations. Easier title is GM. Been there going on 10 years in July now. So my role is overseeing all managers, staff. I do all the advancement for shows. I do coordinating schedules, bands, the whole nine, start to finish.
And then how exactly did you get into the live music industry?
So in 2012, I was living in Indianapolis, my hometown, and studying to be a mechanic, wasn't loving it, and I randomly caught up with someone from middle school on Facebook who we're just talking to each other saying hey, and I asked her what she was doing, and she goes, I'm studying music industry management. And I was like, okay, that sounds really cool. And so it's at Ferris State University. And within 6 months of finding out about that, I had done a tour of the school and moved everything I had up to Michigan and started studying and fell in love. Didn't stop.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually loop back to something that you said. You actually went to school for this.
I did. I studied. Now the program is called Music and Entertainment Business. It's part of the business school, and it's a glorified business degree, but it does focus in music. There were music classes, and mainly from the business and tech side. And then one of the nice things about this program was you had to have 2 internships to graduate. And that, to me, was the catalyst for getting into the industry. It forced me to find a job that was focused in that. And my first job internship was traveling the U.S. at 21 years old, building music festivals. So it thrust me into it, and that's kind of what hook, line, and sinkered me.
Awesome. That's really cool. I actually did not know that they had like college classes for
Yeah,
this.
it's very niche. It's a 4-year degree, undergraduate. The program has gone through some evolution. It is still there. I sit on the board of directors for it. So we meet a couple times a year, kind of educate the professors on the state of the industry and help kind of guide the curriculum. So yeah, it's a really cool program. It's pretty niche. There, a lot of things about music business programs or music programs in general is they're performance based. And so I think that gatekeeps a lot of kids who might not play as much or want to get into the touring and business side that don't want to perform. So I think that's what drew me to Ferris so much was this is a business degree, also a great fallback if you decide not to be in the industry, but also puts me in that lane that I want to be in. So very fortunate.
So you just touched on what drew you to Ferris State. What drew you to the intersection?
So after graduation, I was without a job. I still was touring in the summer, but in the winter it was no man's land for employment. So ironically, I started a company called Level Up Management, and we were managing small artists, a lot of regional bands from start to finish, marketing, ad mats, the whole nine. And the person, Randall Erno, I started the company with, one of our bands was playing the intersection. And so he wanted to put a crew together to bring him to the intersection. And so we went and did this show, and I ended up connecting with a couple of the other production guys. And I think within a month, I hit them back up. I was like, hey, you guys looking for stagehands? And it kind of lined up. It was in July of 2016, so slow month. But by September, I was in and started at the bottom and kind of just grinded my way.
I love that. I love that so much. So, what makes the intersection unique to all the other venues in West Michigan or Michigan in general?
Yeah, I think our space is unique in the sense that we have 4 venues. I say 4.5 because we have the 4 indoor, and then we do a summer series called Rock the Lot in our parking lot. And I think that's really what sets us apart, not only in Michigan, but nationwide. There's a few other spaces in the U.S. that have multiple venues. Salt Shed in Chicago. There's the most famous, in my opinion, is the Rave in Milwaukee.
Okay.
They have 3 venues. But in terms of Michigan and the intersection being unique, I think that's really what sets us apart from all the other great venues is having the ability to have multiple spaces. We've also been around for a long time, so I think that is a cool aspect to being in Michigan. St. Andrews is another one in Detroit that has been around a long time, and I think that is really what cemented us in the community. Is we've been a staple for so long.
Right. And then you guys also just started to do a new event where you are opening up the lot for pre-party events when there is a show at the amphitheater.
Correct. Yeah. The amphitheater was conveniently placed half a block from the venue. So we saw, we're kind of the last stop. There's Founders, then there's Tin Can and us, and we're really the last front before you get to Gates. So, in the summer, we tend to slow down. A lot of people want to see shows outdoors. They don't want to see shows indoors. So we were looking to capture some of that, and what better way than to open up our parking lot. We offer food trucks. We have some select dates we'll have live bands, cornhole, and it's just a space to stop, hang out with your friends. If gates are open in an hour and you're already downtown, it's a nice space, and then you're 1,000 feet from getting into the venue. So it offers a unique opportunity for us. I think the fans of whatever show is happening at Acrisure that night. And it just seemed kind of like a natural progression for us.
And it also lays heavily into the community aspect of Grand Rapids. Like you're just there building community, and I think that's great.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the beautiful things about live music is it forces community in a way. You're bringing people together for one shared common cause, and that's the love of the band. And it fosters that naturally, and giving people a space to do that, to have fun, to let loose a little bit in a safe environment, I think is especially in this day and age paramount.
Yes, it is. It very much is. And I will say I'm a little biased, but it was the first venue that we ever went to for a show in Grand Rapids, and I could just tell from the minute I walked in that everybody there was 100% looking out for each other. It was the first place in Grand Rapids to where my wife and I felt like it was home. So
That's awesome.
I can attest to the greatness of the venue itself.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that, and that's what we strive to hit is creating a space for people that they want to come back. They want to see new bands, and that's what it is. Music is a community, and one of my favorite things about the intersection is with the multiple rooms, we do 3 shows a night sometimes, more oftentimes than not. And watching the different walks of life connect on the side of the street is really fun, because you'll have a country band in one room, a metal band in the other, and then hip hop. And when they all come to that corner, they're all having fun with each other, or the EDM kids all dressed up.
I witnessed this last week, actually. I went to a show in the Stash, and there was a Shrek rave happening downstairs.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a
lot of donkeys and dragons.
And a Shrek rave. And it was like the worlds collided.
Yeah.
And the people outside were just having the best time of their lives.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Let down the hair a little bit, have fun. That's the fun part, is just watching those people be like, oh, we have nothing in common except for live music. This is cool.
And So tell us a little bit about the history of the intersection. You guys did not start where you are now.
We did not. So in 1972, the original intersection opened in wealthy East Grand Rapids, I believe, where the sports bar next to Mulligan's
Okay.
is the original building. And it operated there until 2001, 2002. And then we have two partners, Joel Langlois and Scott Hammondtree. And Joel bought the business and decided to move it downtown into the building it is in today. Our building actually is originally a semi-repair shop. And
Okay.
so it is now obviously defunct, but the building was up and he decided to purchase the building, purchase the business, and then move them into one. And it's been operating there since 2002.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So long history. We're in our 51st year. Last year was the 50th. So yeah, and it's cool because I talked to a lot of old heads who went to the original intersection. There's actually a video circulating online right now. I think it's Morrissey walking into the original intersection.
Wow.
And yeah, and I mean the storied history of the original building is crazy. I mean, Pantera, all these old school bands that walked through that place. And then to carry on that legacy.
You said Pantera, and I just got goosebumps. Thinking about.
Yeah, well,
Pantera
they
playing
actually
at
have
this
ties to
room.
GR. So
Okay.
Phil Anselmo's wife is from GR. The current head of security for the intersection, RJ Brinks, is very good friends with a lot of those people. Also, shout out to CMFJ. You might not know who he is, but he was a huge part of the intersection lore and he's passed away since, but he was a big reason that the original intersection was so storied was because he was bringing these up and coming bands there. They would sleep at his house. And that's how Phil met his wife, was through kind of the intersection family had
Really,
his
really
wife in their friend group. And they were throwing a party one night and Phil met her because they was, spending the night at their house after the show.
That's such a cool story.
Yeah. And so, yeah, just really cool. CMFJ had a huge part in the intersection for a long time. Actually, a lot of guys on our team have CMFJ tattoos. So yeah, full circle moment for a lot of bands and the space. I mean, it's almost unheard of for a music venue to go 51 years.
Yes.
Especially independent.
Yes.
The current climate is tough. And so for us to be able to navigate all of the cycles economically and in the industry, it's a real testament to what Scott and Joel have built for us to be able to last this long.
Yeah. And being able to, or having lasted as long as you had, you've been able to see how the Grand Rapids music industry has changed over the last, well, you specifically, what, 10 years?
10 years, yeah. And I mean, and I think it's insane. GR is what we call a B market. So if a tour gets announced and it's the first leg of the tour, they're going to hit your major markets: Detroit, LA, Chicago, New York, so on and so forth. So what GR is the B market, where, okay, the second leg of the tour announced, that's when we come through. So for us to be a B market and sustain the amount of live music we do is awesome. I think having Tip Top, Scheme, Acrisure, 20, DeVos, us, for Grand Rapids to have that many, and that's not even considering all the bars and small live music spaces. Fillmore East is another smaller spot
That's the one on Burton.
Yeah.
The
Four Star. Yeah,
theater
4
that has
Star.
a lot of
Yeah, they're doing
music
those
shows.
free space shows
Yep.
in the hardcore scene. And for Grand Rapids to be able to sustain that amount and that volume, it's awesome. I think 10 years ago, had you told me that we were going to get an amphitheater, I would have called you crazy. 12,000 people, that's a lot to bring out and to And I mean, that's also Van Andel. So you have two 12,000 cap spaces and the gardens. You know, you have Frederick Meyer that does the summer series that's 5,000 plus, you know. So that many places to be able to cohabitate and build that scene is amazing. You know, I think GR is growing. I think that it's still cool. You know, GR has such a vibe to it that a lot of cities don't, that make it special. So I'm stoked for the future of music in GR. I think it's only going to grow. We're only, you know, now with that many spaces, the bands are going to take a second guess on whether they come here first or not, you know? So I think that that's great for us, for them to go, oh, hey, you know, in the summer we can hit all these outdoor spaces, and then in the fall, winter, we're coming back through and hitting the indoors. That only bodes well for GR's music scene.
And one of the reasons that my wife and I moved to Grand Rapids was because of the music scene.
Really?
Scene, yeah. I mean, we would follow like tour pages of bands that we would follow, and the intersection and St. Andrews were always ones that we would see. So it was part of the reason why we moved here. It just that this was an area where bands that we listen to, obviously, you know, we're both metalheads. They're not, it's becoming more popular now, but they were playing smaller spaces for the longest time and they weren't hitting a lot of cities. So this was something that really pulled on us to come to Grand Rapids.
That's awesome. Yeah, because, you know, coming from an A market and, you know, you just expected those bands to hit the market and you knew you were going to see the tour. So for GR to pull people like you and I of saying, oh, hey, like, I'm going to see that band. I'm going to see that show when it comes through because it is coming through. That's awesome. Yeah.
Like, I mean, we had DC, which was 45 minutes from us, Baltimore, where we lived, and Philly was an hour and 15 minutes. And we left that market to come here.
Yeah.
So that just, and I mean, the city has a lot to do with it as well. But the music market here was huge for our decision.
Yeah. And, you know, Michigan is it's tough, right? It's a destination state because there is no reason to go through Michigan unless you have a reason to. You're not, you know, going out east and going, oh, I'm going to go drive up into Michigan and come back down. You're just, I'm going to hit, you know, 75 east and go through Indianapolis and be done with it. So to make the trek up here, you have to have a reason. So for bands to want to come up here and realize like, hey, when we're coming through this city, we're selling tickets. And I think that's one thing GR, you know, has that a lot of cities don't is the dedicated fan base. And I think that stems from not getting those shows for so long that when a show came through, everyone's like, I'm coming out. You know, I don't know the next time I'm going to see that band. It might be years from now. So we're going to hit the show. We're going to buy the merch. We're going to show up for this band. And I think that really drove a lot of bands to consider Michigan. And the homegrown music scene in Michigan, you know, it's a lot of folk and bluegrass, Billy Strings. A lot of guys are coming out of Michigan in the music world that people are watching.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think our caliber of artist that's coming out of Michigan is great. So, yeah, Michigan as a music scene is alive. It's well, and it's fun. You know, to be a part of it. You know, like I was there when scenario. You know, because you know your New Yorks, your LAs, they've always been. You know, it's just ingrained. Nashville ingrained. So to be a part of a grassroots scene that's growing, I think gives people a sense of pride.
Going back to the "I was there when" quote that you just said, is there any shows that people still talk about to this day that happened in Grand Rapids?
Oh man, you know it's funny. Some of them were before my time, but the Stash, for instance, it's our 380 cap room, the second smallest room in the building. Some of the most fun shows I've ever seen. Jelly Roll, I've seen play in there 2 or 3 times. 380 cap, Jelly Roll. You know, now he's about.
I saw him last year at Ford Field.
Yeah. So I saw Greta Van Fleet.
That's
in that room
wild.
Right before they won their Grammy. Yeah, so shows like that are, I think, the ones that people still talk about to this day. And that's what I tell people so often is come out and see the small bands, because you never know. You never know when they're going to blow up. You never know when you're ever going to be able to see them in that space again. You're never going to see Jelly Roll in a 380 person room.
Never.
Unless he's doing, and then they sell out, in 3 seconds. So it's like, go out and see the show. Go, I know sometimes people are like, and I'm guilty of it too. I did 310 shows last year. And I'm like, the last thing I want to do on my day off is go see this show, but you never know.
Right.
So
That, and there's another quote: never miss a Sunday show.
yeah. Oh man, never. And that's a huge saying in the jam scene. Never miss a Sunday show. It's usually when they bring out the heaters.
Yeah.
And
Some of the best shows I've ever seen have been on Sundays.
oh yeah. I completely agree.
Works miserable the next day, but it was so worth it.
So worth it. And you have that story forever. You can't get those stories back if you don't make them.
No.
So,
I mean, my wife and I, we have a bucket list idea of seeing 50 shows in 50 states. I think so far we've gotten 13 down.
there you go.
So it's
Alaska's going to be tough.
Alaska and Hawaii might be tough. So we've kind of maybe 48 and 48.
It's doable. I'm
is.
sure they tour Alaska.
And, hey, just find some underground show.
There you go.
Go hang out with the Alaskan hardcore kids.
Didn't Born of Osiris just played Alaska?
Did they really?
Yeah, in the last 6 months. And their EJ Shannon, shout out TM for Born of Osiris. He went on the 8 o'clock news in full golf and did a cut a promo
great.
for the show, and it is hilarious.
So what does a typical day look like for you at the intersection?
It's long. I'm the first one in and the last one out. So my day starts, depending on the load in. Some shows are bigger, some shows are smaller. Let's say it's a semi-tour, big show, lot of moving parts. I'm in 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, getting everybody in, getting the tour settled. They have what's called access. So they come in, take a shower, get settled in the green rooms. I get my paperwork ready for the day, get all my production assets out to my team. And then we crack a semi, and load in begins. We get the headliner in is always first. They get the stage first. They get the most amount of space first, naturally. We build the show, and that's everything from sound to their lights to their backline, which is guitars, drums, that whole jazz. Set up all of their monitor worlds, front of houses. And then from there, they move into a sound check or system check. So the front of house engineer will sit, test the room, read the room, dial in the room. Every band is different. That there's some standardization in the industry, but everyone's got their own way of doing it, especially the old heads. And technology is always changing. So they've got new toys. They've got, AI is starting to become prevalent in the industry. There's a new AI tool out that essentially rings out the room instantly for you. You don't have to do anything. So, from there we move into sound checks. Support bands will start to get loaded in, and if there's a VIP, we prep for that. Go into support sound checks, getting everybody situated, getting stuff put away, getting the room ready for the show, and then doors. And then from doors, it's kind of a madhouse from, your bar's moving, your security's moving, your production staff is moving, your managers are moving, guests are coming in, getting drinks, hanging out, getting to their seats, and then show starts, and it's full bore for, 2 to 5 hours. And then my busy time starts when the show ends. I'm settling bands, I'm settling merch, I'm settling bar. All of those pieces are moving fast. Everyone wants to get out. There's a saying in the industry, it's always about the out. So the whole day you're thinking about what's going to make my day easier at the end of the night, because, everybody's working 12, 15 hours. So everybody is tired, and, I'm fortunate. I get to sleep in my bed every night. These tour guys are on the road 6, 8 weeks on a bus, in a van, new city every day, new space every day. So I feel for them times 10 because they've got to go do it over again the next day. And, we do too. Different tour, different, show, but we're stationary. So it's all about the out, getting, everybody situated, getting stuff loaded back into trucks. You literally are packing the same thing you packed 10 hours ago.
Yep.
And then, usually the tour, they got a couple hours to settle down. A lot of guys like to take showers after the show. They get after show food, kind of wind down, decompress. It's a lot of energy, expend
Adrenaline
at
dump.
the same, all at once. So, and then we close up shop and do it all over again the next day.
What is something that most people that just attend concerts have no idea is happening behind it?
There's a lot. I think, hearkening back to what I just said, all the moving parts. Guests show up, and this is what I love about it. It's carefree for them. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a space where they can let loose, listen to their favorite music, and not have to worry about all that stuff. So it's all the moving parts. It's all, and my part in that show starts weeks, if not months before my advancing.
I was getting ready to ask, what is your typical timeline from like how far out do you book a show? Like, do you know when an artist is going to be there?
Yeah,
Not necessarily announcing, but on your end booking.
Yeah, it used to be, rule of thumb was like 90 days to 4 months, 5 months tops. I've got shows confirmed for 2027 already.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and my wife in the amphitheater world, it's a year out. My 2027s are January, February. I know shows she's gotten confirmed in July, August of 2027. And that's just what's announced. Cody Grupp, awesome friend of mine, talent buyer for Live Nation in Michigan. He also manages 156 Silence.
Love that band.
Yeah, they're
Love that
crushing it right now. I know he's already got them almost into 2028 for what they're doing.
I think I saw 156 3 times last year at Section alone.
Yeah, their last show at our venue, they had done 70 in a row.
Yeah.
They are
grinding,
and it is paying off.
They deserve everything.
100%. There's,
it's fresh.
Yeah.
It's new.
And they're all great dudes.
They are.
It's that makes or breaks it for me. I might not like your music, but if you're a good human being, you're awesome. You know what I mean? And those dudes
Music
are
is
awesome.
100% subjective, but the relationships that you build with people is really what I found this industry to be all about. Because
it's a small industry. Yeah.
I haven't worked there in a couple of years now, but I met so many people from so many different walks of life, artists, patrons, everything, where it's so great to build that community with these people.
And it lasts. I see a lot of the same TMs year after year, month after month. They're out with this band one time, and then the next time they're out with this band. The industry is small. And if you don't nurture those relationships and treat them correctly, your time in this industry can be short. But I would say, 90, and there's, the old school mentality was people would just come in and yell, and that was how things got done, was by yelling. And I will say this next fresh generation of the industry has become more understanding and more caring of those relationships. And I think, that old school way is starting to be weeded out. You're running into it every once in a while, but by and large, everyone is cool. We're all there to do one job, and that's to give the fan the best experience and the best night of their life. So if we can all come together and do that with a positive attitude, man, it makes the day easier.
It really does. It really does. And we touched on this earlier, Michigan, you don't really just drive through it. So I know a lot of factors are routing on bands' parts, but what is a deciding factor for bands that you are bringing to the intersection?
The intersection is unique in that we have built relationships with agents for so long. Scott Hammondtree, one of the managing partners, is also our talent buyer. We have a couple assistant talent buyers, Chad Verway, Damon Campbell. So we've been able to nurture these relationships where, a lot of newer venues or smaller venues who aren't proven have to reach out and, we're all fighting for shows. But we're fortunate in a lot of these shows come to us now. They know the room, they know we're pros, and they want to put the show in the room. But I think, what drives a lot of bands to play our markets is the fans. I mean, like I said, they're dedicated. Some of the best merch nights for bands are in GR in Detroit. And I think, like I said, that stems from us not having gotten as many shows back in the day. So when someone comes out, I'm buying all the merch. I don't know if I'm getting it again. You know what I mean? So I think, there's some experiences that bands have in the rooms across Michigan that they don't have elsewhere. You've been to a show where no one's engaged, no one's in it, and the band feels that.
They do.
They still put on the best show they can and give it their all, but there's a vibe exchange that happens between fans and the artist.
It turns up when the crowd.
Oh yeah, all of a sudden your singer's climbing the rafters because he can tell. Like,
one of the first shows I ever went to at Section, I was not working there yet, was a Silent Planet show, and Garrett, Stash, started going crazy on the ceiling, and I was like, oh no.
And that's a drop ceiling, mind you. So
Yes.
yeah, and like Killswitch Engage played the main room once, and the guitar player ran out, jumped on a satellite bar, ordered a shot, took the shot, and then went right into a solo. And it's moments like that GR and Detroit bring out in the fans and the artist, because we are engaged. We want, that's that moment, and both the fan and the artist thrive off that.
And something that I'm very excited about that you guys are starting to push a little heavier now is comedy shows.
Yeah. We just brought on a awesome buyer in the comedy space, and we hit it. We've done a couple. And then in 2026, early 2026, we decided we want to get into the space a little bit more. And it's been awesome so far. Our first show, Jordan Jensen, is coming up at the end of June, and almost sold out. And I think the response has been cool. It's new for us in the sense that we don't do a ton of seated shows. We're a GA venue. We do have some seating, but most of our stuff has been standing room only. So it's been a learning curve for us, and from both logistics to the buying. The comedy world works different than the metal world, and the metal world works different than hip hop. And so, but yeah, it's been great. The response has been great. We've got a ton of shows in the pipeline that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about. And it's just, it's new programming that changes things for us. We're known as the music venue, right? So bringing in these new genres and new programming, I think, kind of branches out to a wider audience. Not everyone listens to music, but people love podcasts and comedy podcasts, and
that's huge.
Yeah, we're sitting on one right now, right? So I think the podcast space has really grown comedy, and we're excited to get into it.
I'm excited for you guys because I've always enjoyed stand up.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see me at the Danny Love show.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited for you guys to be touching into that realm. So we'll go back to a little bit of a logistical question. What is the most unexpected problem you've ever had to deal with at a show?
Oh, man.
This one could get interesting.
Yeah, it just really depends on the day. There's always something that's going to go wrong. I think in recent memory, I want to say it was Ella Langley show. We had a tornado and before doors. So I had a line of 600 people, 800 people outside, and had to figure out a way to get them all into the basement and weather that siren and then egress back out, restart the line, get doors on time. We're fortunate that it's an indoor space, with Rock the Lot, our outdoor summer series. Weather's always a factor. You have sick lead vocalists that you've got to get to med check and figure out if they're going to perform. I've had flights missed is a huge one, especially during the whole outages of airlines and stuff. We've had some shows that start late because an artist is still on a plane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's balancing keeping fans content and not at your throat. Because I get it, they got babysitters, they got things,
Yeah.
they expect everything to run flawlessly.
Yes.
And that's what we expect too, but you have to plan for the unexpected. Gear break, I had, oh man, what band was it? I can't remember the band, but we're 5 minutes to show for the headliner and their entire front of house desk, black. Nothing. Nothing. Yeah. Oh yeah. Not only for us, but for them, like, it's like, okay, what do we do? You gotta, and that's a lot of the industry is planning, on the fly and being able to stay calm. I think that's one thing. If anybody ever gets into the industry, stay calm. We're the ones in the chaos that have to lead the ship. So staying calm, cool, and collected, and figuring it out. There's a way, there's a saying in the industry, I've messed up bigger shows than yours. So,
That's
just
a good saying.
Yeah.
That's a really good saying. So what is the most memorable concert you've worked?
So I appreciate you sending over the questions beforehand, because I had to think on this one. And it's not one I think you would expect, but in recent memory, Chapel Roan.
I actually was in section, right? In the main room.
Okay. Yep.
I worked security that show.
Yeah. And I think it was one of those moments. There's Scott and I talk about it from time to time. And there's these moments you just know that something special just happened. And I'm getting goosebumps right now. That was one of those moments where it was unreal. And I don't particularly listen to pop often. I like pop, but it was, she was on the rise.
That was weeks before Lollapalooza.
And she broke the record for a set at Lollapalooza like 2 months later. And it was the feeling in the room that you were just like, I'm watching history right now. And those moments are unreal, because every once in a while you catch them, and yeah, it's unlike anything you've ever seen. One of the loudest crowds I think I've ever been a part of. Knew every word. It screamed every word.
And now she's on top of the world.
Yeah. And now she's who she is. So unreal.
There is something that I actually did not send over in the questions that I know about you from just knowing you that I wanted to touch on. Can you talk about your tour with Gordon Lightfoot?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't part of the production tour. I got connected with some great folks in Traverse City who are huge Gordon Lightfoot fans. Have been seeing him for 3 decades.
For anybody that doesn't know, Gordon Lightfoot sings the Ballad of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
He does.
And
he's the Canadian Bob Dylan.
And you know anything about Michigan, the Edmund Fitzgerald is huge.
Here. Oh yeah.
I did not know what it was coming from the East Coast, and it got its claws in me very quickly.
And it doesn't leave.
Nope. I've read books on it. I've watched documentaries on it. I have.
It's our Roman Empire.
Copper coins commemorating the ship. So I just really wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. So like I said, I got connected with a great family in Traverse who are huge fans, and they were actually shooting a documentary of Gordon's life. And so they asked me to come out and film. And so for a few months, we traveled with Gordon and followed him on tour and shot documentaries. It's on Amazon. It's called Lighthearted,
Okay.
if anyone wants to watch, and just documented his life. I mean, his impact on the music industry, I don't think a lot of people realize. He toured for like 5 decades, 6 decades. You know, he was releasing albums in the 60s, and that man was a workhorse. I think when we were shooting the documentary, he was in his 80s and was playing 5 shows a week. Yeah. And worked out 6 days a week, smoked cigarettes every day, and was an absolute legend. One of the nicest dudes ever, and wrote one of the greatest ballads of all time.
That almost never got released.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that story is unreal. You know, he had that, a shipwreck and, in Lake Michigan, which is essentially an ocean for those who don't know. And, he commemorated it, and it kind of didn't take for a long time. And then I think our generation and, kind of revived the song and brought the lore into the mainstream. And now there's, I don't know how many memes every year, you know, during the anniversary. There's actually a really cool ceremony they do up in, I think, the UP.
It's at the Shipwreck
Yeah,
Museum?
yep. And they ring a bell for every member of the ship whose life was lost. He actually performed one of the year we were shooting the documentary, so we captured that on footage. And yeah, just a convergence of very different lives. You know, he was a storyteller, and I think he heard this story, and what better person to write that song than him? Like, it is legendary.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's a great song. Yeah, I know I didn't throw that in there, but I wanted to.
No, please. I'm a Gordon Lightfoot fan to the end of my days.
That one was also a little special to me. Because
one of the vinyls, I collect all his vinyl now because of meeting him, and we got to interview his wife and his daughter, and just connect with his whole team. They still tour. He has since passed, but his band still tours. A lot of original members have been with him for 40 years, you know, so you're hearing the same songs that he would play. But yeah, legend of a man.
Really, truly. So what we've been talking about a little bit, can you go in a little bit? What excites you about the future of music in Grand Rapids?
We did touch on it, but I think the growth, you know, we've come from a few venues. You know, Scheme's been around for a while. We've been around. In the last 10 years, 20 popped up. Acrisure popped up. So I think watching that grow, and there's a lot of cool local bands right now. Shout out Focus Ring right now.
My best friend JR is the drummer for that band.
Yeah, I think they're catching fire with their sound. Another one that I don't know if a lot of people are hip to yet, Potion Cellar. Awesome kind of high energy punk, pop, indie, fusion, like really cool band. At the hardcore scene right now in Grand Rapids is crushing. Jam and folk and indie have always kind of been bubbling. You know, you got Desmond Jones, you got Huggy Bear. So I think that's cool because we're fostering the growth of local artists and national artists. The one cool thing about intersection growth that I really like is when we added the 2 new venues in the basement, we're able to grow a band. We put them in the 380 cap. Next time they come through, they're in the 800. Or say they blow out the 800 on sale, we get to move them up to the main room. So we're able to foster these careers of artists and grow them organically.
One of those artists who I did not get the pleasure of seeing grow, but I've watched him show his appreciation for the intersection is Sullivan King.
Yeah. He is an awesome dude. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to bring his Reckless Rapids to the intersection a number of years. And I've never been able to ask him what about it draws him, but he loves it. And
Loves it here.
yeah, and when he comes, it shows. It's a ripper, a barn burner of a show.
That was one of the first EDM shows I had ever worked. And I worked one night of it and attended the other night of it. And I had never been to an EDM show before that in my life. And he does cross over to metal. So there is that. But that show was wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's, another one that no matter how big he gets, he always shouts us out when he comes through is Eric Church. He played Van Andel 6-8 months ago, still mentions us on stage to this day. And I think that's a testament to not only what Joel and Scott have built, but also the artists. Like, you don't have to do that. They don't have to mention the intersection, and they're still willing to. And I think that's so beautiful because it just shows the community that's been built and the impact that our small part. We're an independent venue. We're small, comparatively to the behemoths. And for us to be able to draw that is unreal. It makes me want to continue to be a part of it because, however small of that impact we have, it's an impact. So, yeah.
And truly at the intersection, everybody from the owners top down, they just care.
Yeah,
and it shows.
It's wild that we've been able to foster that internally. Yes, the artist loves us and all, fans come, but for our group of people to continue to show up for each other, makes it worth it. It would be hard for me to want to walk into a building every day where I don't enjoy seeing the people. And I think that's what separates us from a lot of places is we all love working with each other. Yeah, there's hard days. Yeah, we get at each other's necks when, we're 80 hours in and we still got, 3 shows to go and things are going wrong. But yeah, it's family. And I know that's cliche to say. And, there's a lot of bad blood with people saying businesses are family and stuff, but I think if it's true, it's true.
It is. I can't say it enough. It really is the first place my wife and I felt home.
Yeah,
in Grand Rapids,
and we loved having you. I know you've moved on to bigger and better things, but that's the cool thing too. Is no matter how short your tenure there is, you still have that connection. We're still going to welcome you back. That's the thing is people have left and come back and moved on to bigger and better things like you have. And you still walk in and we're still friends.
I get hugs.
Yeah.
People, my wife also worked there for a little bit.
Yeah.
She did coat check for seasonal, because she had been there and she had gotten involved with everybody. And she was like, maybe I'll start picking up shifts too, just because
you get drawn in.
Enjoyed being there so much. And I have to imagine that the music industry in terms of venues are turn and burn, and it's high turnover when it comes to employees. But in the 5 years that we've lived in Grand Rapids, the faces are the same.
Yeah.
When you walk in that building.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to be able to retain, be able to, and that's one thing I like about the intersection too, is we grow careers. I have so many friends who started knowing almost nothing there, moving on to huge tours.
I will shout out somebody that I worked alongside with. Don't know if he's going to love this, but Dale.
Yeah.
He started as a security guard and now he is on tour with Atreyu, and they're not a no-name band in our genre.
No, they're radio played.
And he is a testament of that, and somebody that I have had the pleasure of getting to know and work with. We are still friends to this day.
Yeah. So growing people's careers, and that's what my goal is for our staff and everybody I work with, is growing you to the point that you can move on. I understand it's going to happen eventually, and good for you. I'm glad that we got to be a part of that with you and help you get to that point. And it's awesome to see that you're now going and chasing your dreams and getting out there and doing it. Like, that's what it's all about. I'm not one of those people that wants to hold on and, oh, you can't go do that. You can't go do this. Go do it. Go do it, because you never know when you're going to get that opportunity again.
Right. All right. Well, we are pretty close to wrapping up here. So I've got some rapid fire questions.
Let's shoot.
I'm going to go for. You touched on the chaperone. You're not allowed to say that one. Favorite show you've worked?
Oh, man. I am biased because it's my favorite band, but Coheed and Cambria in the showroom. Just from a pure fan perspective, it was awesome. They've since grown much larger than our venue. Probably won't be coming back anytime soon, but it was just one of those moments I'm gonna cherish, like personal, like I got to do that one because it was sick.
Loudest crowd you've ever experienced?
I was gonna say Chapel Roan, but it's the pop shows where the artist is on the rise and everybody knows their name, or the country shows. Sometimes, like the Ella Langleys, the Elena Springsteen shows where it's like, whoa, I wear hearing protection, but it's those young crowds that are
Sometimes you still can't even hear you.
oh man, yeah, it's like not good when your ears go home ringing just from the crowd,
Yeah.
not the mix. You know what I mean?
Dream artist to book?
Oh, see, it's so genre dependent. I'm so fortunate to work with a lot of artists that I would put on this list. We used to do Billy Strings 3 times a year, and now he's amphitheater big. So currently, I'd say Landmarks would be one that's up there for me in the metal world. I would love to do like a Still Remains, Haste the Day, like throwback show.
As long as you get O Sleeper.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like those like 04 to 06 metalcore bands. And what's cool is they're all on their 20-year reunions right now, so it's actually viable.
Yeah.
Shows like that, I think, like the ones when we were in high school and we're like, oh man, like
The bands that I saw in the basements of churches.
yeah,
And
yeah. Mine was CPAC. Shout out CPAC, Carmel Performing Arts Center, of like the local like metal shows that are dance recital spaces during the day.
Mine was Knights of Columbus in Annapolis, Maryland, and St. Christopher's Church in Linthicum, Maryland.
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
My 7th grade geography, shout out Scott Edwards. You're probably never going to see this. He was the local show promoter in
Really?
my genre. So his classroom was Comeback Kid, Norma Jean, like tour posters, same thing. He
Man.
would house them. He's how I learned about
Where was that teacher in my high school?
like all of these bands. I went to he had a promotion company called Cobra Clutch Promotions.
Okay.
And he would do, I saw Vanna, Haste the Day,
Wow.
War of Ages, like O Sleeper, all Motionless in White. I saw Motionless in White play to about 25 people in the basement of a church.
That's sick.
And look at them now.
Yeah.
They're another one that's just blowing up.
That's awesome. Those are those moments. That's what brought us into this world.
Yep. First concert you ever went to?
Okay, so I'm going to 2-part this because first concert I ever went to was Haste the Day, a band called Fifth Street Heist, RIP, local metal show at CPAC. But the first ticket I ever purchased myself was Trivium, Coheed and Cambria, and Slipknot.
Wow.
What a bill, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I was like a junior in high school, and that was my first, like, I'm going to a concert by myself, like, just to go see. And you're never going to see those 3 bands tour ever
That's
again.
kind of a genre blend there.
It
too.
was wild.
It's all metal, but they're not.
No.
They're not the same type.
No, not at all.
And then last one word to describe the Grand Rapids music fans. I feel like you've already said this a bunch.
Dedicated. Yeah, I know I keep hearkening back to that word, but they're awesome. Regardless of the genre, I think music is alive and well in the city, and it's awesome to be a part of.
All right. And then 2 closing questions. When someone walks into the intersection for the first time, what is the one thing you want them to remember when they leave?
It's not about us. So I want them to remember their experience as a positive one, regardless of if that's whether interacting with our team or because the show was so good. I want them to know that they're welcome. They're allowed to have fun. And it's a place they can come back to. I think that's huge to foster a safe space, regardless of who it is, to give them an opportunity to be themselves and to experience something. You know, the grind is hard. Life is hard right now for everyone. Money's tight. You're choosing to spend that money with us on a show, and that means something, I think. And I'm going to strive to give you that experience.
And I think you guys do a very good job at that, because in my time working there were repeat patrons that would come up to not just myself, but anybody that worked there. Hey, how have you been? You guys good? Nice to see you. You know, do you need anything, want anything? And that speaks volumes about the people that work there.
Yeah, we've got some diehards who buy a ticket just to buy a ticket, you know, and that is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. They might not know the band or what, but they just want to be in the space. And that is unreal to me. And that's also a testament to them, because it's the fans who shape that. So, you know, we have a part. Yeah, we do the best we can, but without the fans, none of us are here, artists or staff alike. So for them to create that space, they have just as much a part of it, and for them to come regularly, like, unreal.
And then last question, shout out your favorite local Grand Rapids business or event space.
Okay. You know, I want to give the flowers to the other venues. Like I said, Tip Top, Pyramid Scheme, Free Space, Fillmore East, 20, Gardens, Acrisure, all of them. Like, thank you for being a part of it, and thank you for also fostering the community. You know, it takes a village, and I think that was one of the questions that a lot of people asked us when like 20 opened or Acrisure. We always get the, well, how's that going to affect you? How is that going to?
There's enough room at the table for everyone.
100%. And if we can all eat, and we can all eat now. GR is letting everybody come to the table. And are we competing for the same fans and shows? Sure. But at the end of the day, it's about the experience, and we're all providing that for the fans and the community. And I think that shouldn't go unsaid.
Because each one of these venues has their own personality and their own space, to where it truly isn't a competitive market between the venues.
Sure.
Like there's not a lot of venues in the city that are the same size as.
Correct. You know, and I think that's also, you know, we're not competing with Acrisure. There, you know, it's thousands of difference, you know, and Scheme isn't competing with Free Space, because they're two different vibes. You know, you go to Free Space for one thing, and you go to Scheme for another, and you go to Tip Top for the bar atmosphere, and you go to Fillmore East for the late night. And, you know, everybody has created their own lane, and it's a beautiful thing. Like I said, GR is growing, and I think with it comes all of that. Like, it's awesome. I want more of it.
I'm very excited to watch not only you guys continue to grow, but the music scene in this city, because it's been a fun ride for the last 5 years that we've been here, and I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Thanks for being a part of it.
Of course, and thank you for coming today.
Always. Thank you.
We appreciate you. One last thing from me, I want to say, in today's ever-evolving world of technology and AI, go to shows, support these artists. They are potentially under threat right now, because there's more and more AI music that is coming out every single day, and you cannot take the soul away from art and dehumanize it for profit. That was my closing statement on that. I feel pretty heavy on that. So
Amen.
I wanted to throw that out there. Thank you for tuning in for the first episode of Getting to Know Grand Rapids. I'm Kyle. This was my guest, David. Have a wonderful day.